The principle of birthright citizenship has long been a cornerstone of American identity. Enshrined in the 14th Amendment, this principle dictates that any individual born on U.S. soil is automatically granted American citizenship. This inclusive ideal, however, has become a subject of intense debate and legal scrutiny in recent years. The current controversy stems from a 2025 executive order issued by former President Donald Trump, an order that seeks to restrict birthright citizenship for children born to undocumented immigrants. This executive order, currently being challenged in the Supreme Court, has ignited a firestorm of controversy, pitting those who believe in a more restrictive interpretation of the 14th Amendment against those who uphold the traditional understanding of birthright citizenship. The outcome of this case will have profound implications for the future of citizenship in the United States. At its heart lies the fundamental question: what does it truly mean to be an American citizen? The Supreme Court's decision will reverberate through the nation, shaping the lives of countless individuals and families. The court's ruling will determine whether birthright citizenship remains a bedrock principle of American society, or whether it becomes subject to limitations that could reshape the very fabric of the nation. In 2025, former President Donald Trump issued a highly controversial executive order aimed at curtailing birthright citizenship. This executive order, a cornerstone of his immigration policy, seeks to redefine the long-established understanding of the 14th Amendment. The order specifically targets children born in the United States to parents who are not U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents. Trump's administration argues that the 14th Amendment was never intended to grant citizenship to children of undocumented immigrants. The executive order asserts that the phrase, "subject to the jurisdiction thereof" in the 14th Amendment should be interpreted narrowly. It posits that children born to undocumented immigrants are not fully subject to U.S. jurisdiction, as their parents owe allegiance to another country. This interpretation, however, represents a significant departure from the traditional understanding of the 14th Amendment. Critics argue that this interpretation undermines the very essence of birthright citizenship, potentially creating a class of individuals born in the U.S., but denied the rights and privileges of citizenship. The Supreme Court case challenging Trump's executive order has become a battleground for opposing interpretations of the 14th Amendment. On one side, the Trump administration, represented by Solicitor General D. John Sauer, argues for a limited view of birthright citizenship. Sauer contends that the 14th Amendment was intended to address the specific circumstances of formerly enslaved people after the Civil War, not to grant automatic citizenship to children of those residing in the U.S. illegally. Challenging the Trump administration's stance are a coalition of states and advocacy groups. They maintain that the 14th Amendment's language is unambiguous and inclusive. They argue that the framers of the amendment intended to establish a clear and unequivocal guarantee of birthright citizenship for all individuals born on U.S. soil, regardless of their parents' immigration status. They contend that Trump's executive order contravenes the plain text of the 14th Amendment and undermines a fundamental principle of American democracy. During oral arguments, the Supreme Court justices rigorously questioned both sides, seeking clarity on the complex legal and historical issues at play. Liberal justices, including Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, expressed skepticism about the Trump administration's narrow interpretation of the 14th Amendment. They questioned whether the executive order could withstand constitutional scrutiny and raised concerns about potential discrimination against certain groups. Conservative justices, including Roberts, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett, while also posing tough questions to the Trump administration, appeared more receptive to exploring the limits of birthright citizenship. They delved into the historical context surrounding the 14th Amendment, probing the original intent of its framers. Justice Thomas, known for his originalist approach to constitutional interpretation, focused his inquiries on the history of nationwide injunctions and their compatibility with the court's traditional role. A key precedent looming over the case is the 1898 Supreme Court decision in. This landmark case affirmed the birthright citizenship of Wong Kim Ark, who was born in San Francisco to Chinese immigrants. The decision has long been considered a cornerstone of birthright citizenship jurisprudence. The Trump administration attempts to distinguish the current case by emphasizing the differences in the legal status of the parents. They argue that Wong Kim Ark's parents were legal residents, while the executive order targets children of undocumented immigrants. Critics counter that this distinction is irrelevant, as the 14th Amendment makes no such distinction based on parents' immigration status. They argue that established a clear precedent that should be upheld in the current case. Beyond the substantive issues of birthright citizenship, the case also raises crucial questions about the use of nationwide injunctions. Lower courts had issued nationwide injunctions blocking Trump's executive order from taking effect. These injunctions, which have become increasingly common in recent years, have drawn criticism from those who argue that they exceed the traditional authority of the judiciary. The Trump administration argues that nationwide injunctions are an overreach of judicial power and undermine the principle of judicial restraint. They contend that such injunctions should be limited in scope, applying only to the parties directly involved in a case. Opponents of this view argue that nationwide injunctions are sometimes necessary to provide effective relief when a law or policy is deemed unconstitutional. They maintain that allowing a law to go into effect in some parts of the country while being challenged in court could create chaos and confusion. The Supreme Court's decision in this case will have far-reaching consequences for the future of birthright citizenship and the interpretation of the 14th Amendment. If the court upholds Trump's executive order, it could pave the way for further restrictions on birthright citizenship. Such a ruling would represent a significant departure from long-standing precedent and could have a profound impact on the lives of millions of people. A ruling in favor of the challengers, on the other hand, would reaffirm the principle of birthright citizenship and serve as a check on executive power. It would send a clear message that the 14th Amendment's guarantee of citizenship applies equally to all persons born on U.S. soil, regardless of their parents' immigration status. The court's decision will likely have significant implications for immigration policy, national identity, and the balance of power between the branches of government. The issue of birthright citizenship has deeply divided public opinion in the United States. Polls consistently show that a majority of Americans support the principle of birthright citizenship. However, there is a significant partisan divide, with Republicans far less likely than Democrats to support birthright citizenship for children of undocumented immigrants. This partisan divide reflects broader disagreements over immigration policy and national identity. Supporters of birthright citizenship argue that it is a fundamental American value that should not be compromised. They contend that ending birthright citizenship would create a permanent underclass and undermine the nation's commitment to equality. Opponents of birthright citizenship argue that it is being abused and that it encourages illegal immigration. They believe that ending birthright citizenship would help to deter illegal immigration and protect the integrity of American citizenship. As the nation awaits the Supreme Court's decision, one thing is certain: the outcome of this case will have far-reaching implications for the future of citizenship in the United States. The court's ruling will determine whether birthright citizenship remains a cornerstone of American identity, or whether it becomes subject to limitations that could reshape the very fabric of the nation. The court's decision will not only impact the lives of countless individuals and families, but will also shape the nation's ongoing debate over immigration, national identity, and the meaning of citizenship in the 21st century. The court's ruling will be a defining moment for American jurisprudence, with consequences that will resonate for generations to come.